Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader. We're going to do another standalone, but this is going to be those same types of books where you read each one is its own individual story, but they all have a group of characters, so it's still a series. So this is part of the Caliendo Resorts Series. It is by Shannyn. It's either Leah or Lee, and we're going to dive into book one, Sunset Thunder. We meet Violet Caliendo, and she is an event coordinator at the Caliendo Resort in Willow Valley. Her grandparents founded this resort. It's this extremely huge place, absolutely stunning. We find out she has been divorced for about 2 years from a man named Joel. She has two children with him, and they were married for about 9 years. Joel is now getting married to a former maid at the Caliendo Resorts. Her name is Missy. There are so many issues with this, okay? Like, why would you want to get married at the place where your ex wife is the wedding coordinator? It's her family's business as well, right? This is the Caliendo Resorts. Why would you want to get married there? That is so weird to me. I would think that the soon to be wife, she would have an issue with it, or I would think the ex husband would have an issue with it. Like, I don't know, so weird. So already I'm like, okay, this is gonna be spicy. I like it. So our girl Violet is trying to hold it together because she's annoyed that she's even planning this event, but she's determined to get through it. So Joel is waiting on his best friend Ryder to arrive before they proceed with this wedding planning meeting. And so Joel is like really loud and obnoxious, and Violet is just kind of wondering, how did she ever marry him? She does say that it was a loveless marriage and that Joel was only there for her money because she comes from wealth. His family basically, I don't know if they didn't have any funds or if they weren't as rich. It doesn't necessarily say at first, but we do know that her family is also worried about her, Violet's family, because this is crazy, right? For you to be planning your ex-husband's wedding. That's weird. And so they want to make sure nothing crazy pops off because they are concerned about Violet. Also, this is the how the family survives, right? This is where their wealth comes from. So they're not trying to lose this pristine resume that they have over some foolishness. And I get that. So different members of her family. She's got a brother named Mark. She's got a younger sister named Izzy. She's got another sister named Emma. And they're all just there, just kind of making sure that everything is fine and they can all just get through this wedding. We then switch to Ryder Carlex's POV. You know, I love when they do this. So Ryder is the best friend of Joel, and we get a little backdrop. So Ryder knows that Violet doesn't like him at all because he apparently he was a jerk in the past and they've never gotten along. The last time that Joel got married, which was with Violet, he had just lost his mother at that time. So unfortunately, Ryder was in like a really dark place. He was drinking a lot, doesn't remember a lot about what happened at that wedding. And so he clearly knows something. He must have done something that makes her just absolutely hate him. But he doesn't really see what he's ever really done. We find out also that his father has dementia, Donald Carlex. So no one knows that his father has dementia. He has his father, in 24-hour care, and his father doesn't look anything like the man he was before. Right now, they're out and they're fishing, and his father's just there. He was this powerful CEO of Carlex Grocers. It started off as a small place, and it grew into 200 stores within the U.S. So now Ryder has now taken over the CEO position, and he's on the phone with Joel, which is his conversation that our girl Violet was hearing. And Joel is, again, he's loud and obnoxious. And Ryder was just kind of lying to him, telling him that he was with two blondes. But the truth was, he was with his father. I think the fact that if this is supposed to be your friend and you haven't told him what's really going on in your life, how close can you really be? I'm just saying. I know that you don't tell everybody everything, but his father's decline has been about the past 2 years. And you mean to tell me someone who's supposed to be your friend, like this really great friend, you're the best man at the wedding, you haven't told him? That right there shows me there's cracks in this friendship, and they can't be as close as the Joel guy thinks. We also find out that he doesn't trust people really at all. Um, he has a really hard time with trusting women. He was in a relationship with someone named Courtney. He was in love with her, and it didn't work out. We don't know why, but to him, it feels as if people only want to be in his presence so maybe they can screw him and get his money, and that's kind of it. So if he is a playboy, which it sounded like he possibly could be, I can see why. He's been scorned once, and a lot of times that happens. Some people stay in that space and don't necessarily recover. So this seems like this might be what's going on with him. He also thinks it's extremely screwed up that Joel is having his wedding at the same place that his previous wedding was, and having his ex-wife actually plan it. He doesn't understand the purpose in that. I don't either. That's weird. That does not make sense to me. So he doesn't really want to even stand up there to be his best man. We do find out Joel came from money, but his parents died, and after they died, he squandered the fortune. And it happened because he wouldn't take anyone's advice, and so he lost everything. So the lake house where they live, it's all in what is it called? Willow Valley, Willow Lake, Willow Valley. It's all in Willow Valley. He allowed Joel to stay there for a period of time until he got back on his feet. So this lake house is about 15 minutes away from the Caliendo Resort, and he is very interested in seeing Violet because Joel nicknamed her the Ice Queen, and he's always described her as not having any emotion, X, Y, and Z. And so he kind of wants to see how the hell is this woman going to do this wedding, and she's a whole ass ice queen. Well, honestly, if she's an ice queen and she don't show no feeling, well, that kind of makes sense as to why she probably could do it, because she doesn't feel anything, right? So, but he's interested to see how that's gonna work out. We don't have all the full details again about what happened at the first wedding between Joel and Violet, but he says he did try to offer like apologize for it, like, and try and invite her out to dinner or something just to kind of, or lunch or whatever, just to apologize. And it was always declined. She never wanted to speak with him. So this should be interesting. So we switch back to Violet's POV, and she's getting ready to go into a meeting with the couple. And they have got to decide if they're going to have the wedding in the gold room or the silver room. And she's still wondering how the hell they found out about a cancellation that happens to coincide with their wedding date. So that's how they were able to book this place. So she's done other meetings with them. They've got a lot of stuff done, but there's still like a few things that have got to get nailed down. So she can see very clearly that Joel loves this girl, Missy. Missy comes from an average family, but Joel's got money. You know, he's got some money now because of the divorce settlement. And so it basically set him up for life. So it's like, we'll see how this is going to work. So it seems like this is one he definitely is going to do for love, because he's not trying to get any financial. He's not trying to move up in the social ladder with this one. So he might clearly love the Missy girl. We will see. She admits, our girl Violet, that she never loved Joel. And she knows that Joel never loved her. She knows that. She understands that. Even though she didn't love him, she still don't want to coordinate this shit. You know, it's like, I still shouldn't have to do this. So I'm trying to figure out, why did she accept to do it? You can't tell me she's the only person there. It's a family business. Other people work there. Why the hell did she accept it? Or why was it put on her? That I want to know. She's starting to have a panic attack. And so she winds up going into the men's restroom, and she's in a stall, and she sees someone in the corner. It's Ryder. And the first thing she notices is how fine this man is. He has these blue lake eyes. She even notices he's got this firm ass. But she knows he's a playboy, because that's what Joel has always told her about him, you know. So Ryder's on the phone. He's leaving a message for someone, and he's like, "Hey, Susan, let me know if I can come over tonight and if Kelly is going to stay or not. I'll bring dinner." So it sounds like he's going to feed these women that he's having a threesome with. That's what it sounds like. But we know those are actually his father's nurses. But it all just feeds into what Violet thinks. He's just a playboy. Just look at him. So she is incredibly turned on by this man. She has made up in her mind that she is going to do something about it. So we switch to Ryder's POV. He's looking at Violet for like the first time, like really looking at her. And he's like, damn, the Ice Queen, she really is sexy. And the way she's looking at him is like she wants to devour him. And he's thinking like, this can't be. Because she's always looked at him with so much disdain. But as she gets closer and grabs his shirt, he realizes, oh, this is exactly what is about to happen. So then we switch back to Violet's POV, and she describes how absolutely delicious Ryder tastes as they kiss. And then he picks her up, puts her on the sink. She grabs his dick, and they have a nice hard fuck, okay? Now, afterwards, she started to freak out because reality sets in, and they have to go into this meeting. So he said, like, listen, I'll go in first and I'll text you to let you know when it's clear, but I'm going to need your number. Well, she doesn't give him her number, and she starts to get cold with him. But he's just staring at her like in amazement. And she's like, why are you staring at me? You know? And he's watching her put her clothes on. And he says, because I like watching you put clothes on that hot body of yours. This, of course, does something to her. She winds up leaving out first from the men's room. And then she, of course, looks around. Because at first she's like, I don't care. But then, of course, when she walks out, she looks both ways to make sure no one saw her. And then remembers she's got to go back to her office to get her iPad. Because she needs a moment to just get herself together from this sexapade that she just had. We switch back to Ryder, and he comes out, and we get a little bit more backdrop. So he basically grew up with Joel. Their parents were close with each other. And so when Joel's parents died, Ryder's parents basically they would look after him, they take care of him, X, Y, and Z. So when Joel blew his money, his father Donald was like, we'll bail him out. But Ryder's like, if he does that bullshit again, he's not bailing him out. He doesn't seem too fond of Joel. It pretty much seems like the parents felt responsible for Joel. Like, you know what I mean? If you're close, if a couples and they're close and they're kids, if something happens, they feel responsible for him. It's more so something like that, you know. But Ryder doesn't really feel like that when it comes to Joel, you know. I mean, again, he hasn't even told Joel what's going on with his dad. So that lets me know, again, the relationship with them, it's pretty superficial. They're not telling anything deep to each other. He says that they were cool when they were younger. They went to boarding school together, but their friendship, again, just kind of tapered off. It's not a strong friendship. And he is shocked that he's even the best man. But it's probably because he ain't got too many friends. That might be the reason. So he comes into the meeting and the bridesmaids are there. They're all single. They're looking at him like they want to devour him, but he doesn't want them. No, the only thing stuck in his head now is Violet. And so when Violet does come in, she looks completely put together, not a blonde hair out of place. There is no blush in her cheeks. Like, she does not look like she just got banged 10 minutes ago. So when they comes in the room, they talk about whatever they need to talk about, and then she's going to show them a different room. And as she's leading them out, Ryder makes sure that he's the last person to leave out because he wants to say something to her. And sure enough, he whispers to her that he likes it when the skirt is hitched up around her waist. She gives away just for a split second that it did something to her. And he knows, oh, he got to her with that statement. So they're going back and forth between the gold room and the silver room. The girl is so indecisive. Violet's getting annoyed, but she pretty much is really stuck on the statement that our boy said to her when he was leaving out. That's kind of where her head is. Ryder keeps staring at her. She can feel it. Eventually, he walks up to her. They have a little back and forth, and she's trying to think of a way to, like, get him out of her head. So when Joel comes up and he's doing the whole, oh yeah, you were with two blondes, tell me about it, he wants all the details. So our girl Violet is like thinking, yeah, I need to hear this because this is going to help me get Ryder out of my head. So then we switch to Ryder's POV, and Ryder does what I had expected him to do, but it was freaking perfect. And he says, "Oh, he just starts to he describes how one of them came up to him in the bathroom, and how it was the best sex he ever had." So he just described his rendezvous with Violet. Violet was not prepared for that either. So Joel is all whipping it up and makes a comment about how he wished all blondes were that way. Now, again, why are you making digs at your ex-wife when you're marrying somebody else who you claim to love? Why are you still trying to, like, dig at your ex-wife? That doesn't make sense to me. Joel walks off, and Ryder comes up to Violet and just kind of says, you know, that's not clearly, what he's saying is not true. And she tells Ryder, I don't need you to tell me about my ex husband. There's a reason we're not married anymore. And she walks away. So he's thinking, that maybe all this time Joel got it wrong because she is she a nice queen? But then the way she responded to him after that situation, it was just kind of like maybe Joel did get it right. And she is an ice queen. And hopefully this will keep her out of his thoughts. So they're both trying to figure out a way to stop thinking about the other person. It's wild. So we fast forward a week. Our girl Violet has been thinking about this man so much. She's trying to keep herself really busy. Shit hasn't helped. She keeps waking up in these hot sweats at night. So this is her one day off. She's already, gone for the day doing stuff for the Fright Fest that's going to happen because this is in, I want to say, summer months. And she decides today she is going to wear her bathing suit, jump in the pool, and just have a nice relaxing day. She, of course, is thinking about Ryder, thinking about his parents and how they were very much in love. And that's how she thought it should have been with her parents, but they weren't that way. Her Robert was an awful person, and he died of cancer probably about a year or so ago. And she found out he'd been doing horrible things to people throughout the years. We find out she's got a sister named Anya who was kind of his favorite, but she pretty much came down when he was dying, left before he died, came back for the funeral, and hasn't been seen in a year. And she starts thinking about, maybe I should hire a private investigator just to make sure that her sister Anya is okay. Well, then her children come out, Parker and Sophia, and they're like, Dad's not picking us up. You've got to take us over to Ryder's. He says to take us over to Ryder's place and he'll meet us there. So the kids are spazzing out. At first, she was like, wait a minute, like, hold up. So she gets out of the pool, puts a towel around her waist. She wants to go change. They're like, no, there's no time for us. What if Ryder drives off and leaves us? We don't want to miss the boat. And I'm sitting there thinking, but if the whole reason he taking the boat out was for you with your dad, like, why would he pull off without you? But anyway, because the kids are spazzing out, they're like, we gotta go, we gotta go. So she just jumps in the car and takes the kids over to Ryder's house. And when they get there, Joel's car is not there. She does see the yacht because it's not just a boat, it's a yacht, what she sees. And she sees Ryder and she's thinking, like, God damn it. Like, she's been trying to avoid this man at all costs, but she doesn't want to just leave her kids there because Joel's not there yet. And these kids aren't Ryder's responsibility. So she feels kind of stuck. So we switch to Ryder's POV. He's looking out, he sees her, and he's thinking, like, what are they doing? Like, why is she here? Well, the kids come over and we find out Joel is not here. He told the kids to go on, Ryder did, go on, put your life jackets on and stuff like that. He went and checked his phone, bunch of messages from Joel, and the last one said, I'm not going to make it. Tell them, make up a lie for me. So this pisses off Ryder. He doesn't like the idea of lying to these kids. They call him Uncle Ryder, and it's just kind of like this is a selfish prick. Joel is so selfish. These kids clearly love to be around their dad, but he don't give two fucks about them. So the kids look disappointed. He goes up to Violet and she says he canceled, didn't he? And he's like, yeah. So they were going to leave, but Ryder was like, I'll take the kids out. They can still go fishing. I'll still take them. I have enough food in there for lunch and dinner. because I know they were promised, all of that, eating under the stars. And she's like, well, that's a long day. It's like a 12-hour day with my kids. They'll destroy you. And he says, why don't you come with us? She tries to think of an excuse, but then she says, you know what? If we just do like a lunch and a little after and we can come back, okay. So they're going to go. And he's actually happy that Joel didn't show up now because he gets to spend some time with Violet. And he, of course, as well, I didn't mention it, but he's been thinking about Violet all week too. Same shit she's been doing, he's been trying to do as well. Neither one of them it's working. They're stuck on each other. So the kids know how to fish. They've done it before. Sophie, her daughter, she's looking at this little scanner thing to see where the fish are in the water. Parker, when she spots some, he baits his own line and everything. Violet looks at that worm like, oh my god, I can never do that to a poor little worm. And her and Ryder are giving each other different little glances. And then Ryder comes up to her with a can of corn. And he tells her a story about his mom. And his mom was like her, scared to pick up a worm, couldn't imagine hurting a worm. And so his dad would bring a can of corn and would bait her hook with the corn. And so he still brings a can along. It's just a reminder of his mom. But it's like after he told her the story, she starts to see him kind of shutting down. And she realizes he does the same thing she does, but it's not fun being on the other side of that crap. And I think that's good because I think sometimes when you have those defense mechanisms, because you're not on the other end of it, you don't know how it feels. So for her to experience it is like, okay, maybe I need to stop doing this shit. Or like, maybe not as maybe do it a little bit more subtly or find another way to deal with things because she did not like him shutting down on her. He puts the corn on her hook. She's trying to throw it. It's not working. She looks at him like, why did you give me a broken fishing pole? So Ryder's about to burst out in laughter. And she's looking at him like, what are you laughing at? And he was like, clearly you have never been fishing. So there was a release button that she was supposed to push and she wasn't pushing it. So then he gets this crazy idea to like push her in the water. So that's what he did and jumped in with her. Then the kids come running and they come in and they jump in. And it is the absolute best time. And he's had this joy. He's like, he's felt it twice this week. And he hasn't felt this type of joy since his mom passed away. And it's like he has his dad, but his dad, he had his dad for a period of time, but then these past few years, his dad's health started to decline, and now most of the time, his dad doesn't even recognize who he is. So it's like he's lost him too, and this is when it becomes a little more difficult for people to ignore something, like especially if you try and put it out of your head. But then it gives you such gratification, such happiness. How do you do that, right? So this is when okay, they're not gonna be able to let go of each other. That is not happening. So after they get back on the boat, the kids go and play with their electronics. Ryder shows her how to fish. Well, tries to show her how to fish, and before that, they were having this real conversation because a lot of assumptions are being made on both sides. She's assuming he sleeps with everybody. He assumes she's stuck up. She's a stuck up brat because every time he says her name, he does it with this. He goes like Violet Caliendo. Like it's very condescending way he says it. And she kind of was like, she told him like, I don't like when you do that. Why do you do that? She's like, I'm not stuck up. I don't know it all. I'm not a perfect person. She's like, my family says that to me, does it that way to me too. And it's like, I don't like that. She does not view herself as perfect. She's like, I'm just human. And he says, you know what, you're right. I'm going to stop doing that. He does tell her that he doesn't sleep with everyone. And he tells her he hasn't laughed as hard with anyone or enjoyed as much in the past 2 years. So he tells her he'll teach her how to fish. She says, that'll work because they were talking about deep fried pickles earlier. So he had made a comment about how Missy thinks that deep fried pickles are the way to get your vegetables. And Violet's like, don't knock it till you try it. Because when she was pregnant, she craved them. And she still gets them from time to time from this place. So I'm wondering if Missy's pregnant. Because Joel is crazy about Missy, right? And he's gonna want to have a family with her. He act like he don't care about these other two kids. He breaks promise with them like so fast. So I'm kind of wondering. I don't know. We'll see. So Ryder says, well, maybe one day we'll go order some pickles, right? And he wants to get to know her better. And he's hoping they'll stop with the jabs at each other. Like, it'll be a truce. So later on, after he teaches her how to fish, he's making lunch. He's having these flashbacks to that conversation that he had with his mom years ago, um, when she was dying. And she had said that she wanted him to open his heart again, don't close it off. She understood what happened with the Courtney girl, but don't let that be the only way you view love based on that relationship. And so he starts thinking about Violet. Like, Violet could be that person. And he hadn't thought about that conversation with his mom since he had it. Because, like, when he had the conversation with her, he was just kind of, what's the word? Just kind of entertaining his mom, with it. Like, he was really listening as far as, like, really taking it in and was going to live his life based on that. But it was just because she was dying. But the fact that that thought has come back to him, that conversation, and then the first person he thinks about is Violet. Yeah, you like her. So Violet calls down and says, hey, do you need any help? She comes down, and she gets right next to him, and when she saw what he was making, she's like, did you do this yourself, or did you, like, buy it from somewhere? And he says kind of rough to her, I did it myself. He didn't mean for it to come out that earlier, but I think the thoughts that he was having about her earlier freaked him out. And she was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insinuate that you couldn't. And so then he grabs and kisses her. They're about to go at it, and she's like, no, we can't do that. My kids are upstairs. She leaves, but in the back of his mind, he wants a date, like, solidified before they get off this boat. Because he feels like he wants to get to know her. And he's like wanting to dive in first, head first, and I'm liking it. It's cute. So it's now evening. Yes, they have spent the whole day with Mr. Ryder. The kids are falling asleep on the day beds. He comes up and she thanks him for the day, and she says the kids really had a great time. And he wanted to know if she had a good time, and she admitted she did. He takes her to the front of the boat, and he's got a dessert for her. He had made like some apples and spice and baked them or whatever. They came out really good. And so he, of course, lets her know that he really wants a date. And she starts thinking in her head, ever since the divorce, it's just kind of been she takes care of the kids, and then after that she works, but there's no real life for her. And she's had so much fun today. She's laughed so much. She's enjoyed her time. And she really doesn't want to let that go. So they have their back and forth, and she winds up asking about his dad, how he's doing. And she's like, she misses seeing him at the different galas. And he says, oh, I attend on his behalf. He's just busy with the remodel. So he's still not telling anybody the real thing that's going on with his dad. Um, he offers his condolences to her for her father passing away. And she was shocked because most people didn't like her dad. And he was just like, yeah, but that was still your dad. I didn't have any issues with him, you know? She's scared, but it sounds like they're going to go have fried pickles. And he's going to bring the dessert. Even though he told her he would like to take her out, like on a proper date, like to dinner. But it looks like the fried pickles and dessert is going to happen. So as they keep talking, more and more she keeps thinking this can't be. This can't be. He's not being for real. She's think this is some type of ploy that Joel is probably in on, that they're going to try and embarrass her. Like, her mind works like that. That's a whole other level of overthinking. But then again, if somebody's always been mean to you, they're still taking jabs at you. I'm not going to say it's too far fetched. I'm not going to put that on her because, yeah. So, because she's thinking in her head, this is just some big type of joke, um, I think she winds up saying that to him. And Ryder got pissed off because he's like, listen, I came in this with preconceived notions about you and I admitted I was wrong, but you can't. You can't do that. You cannot admit that you were wrong about me. You're still stuck on saying I'm this type of way. And he winds up telling her, you know, I'm not leaving until you agree to go on a date with me. And she says, that's not going to happen. And he was like, fuck it. I'll have you back to shore in 15 minutes. So he gets her back to shore. He picks up Sophia. She picks up Parker. He buckles them up and he walks off, leaves her. And so he tells her before he walked off, he said, you're doing this, you know? He's like, you're the one that opened the door and you're the one that's closing it. And he went in the house. And I'm not mad at him because she did approach him in the bathroom, right? And it's like he's being more open with you. He keeps getting shut down. And at some point, people gonna get sick of it. It is what it is. So then we switch to Ryder's POV. He goes in to check on his dad. Susan, one of the nurses, asked how his day went. And Susan said that his dad had a pretty good day. He didn't have any episodes or anything. He always feels really guilty if it's a rough day for the nurses. You know, he misses being able to go in and talk to his dad. His dad would always challenge him. So if he had a question, his dad's going to challenge him with that question. And he misses being able to do that. He sits down with Susan and they're talking. And she's like, um, so did Joel get a new car? He says, no, that was Violet. And she goes, oh. And then she says, was Violet at the wedding meeting that you went to a week ago? And he says, yeah. And she says, oh, okay, that explains the glow. He says, there's no glow. She says, yes, there is. Good night. So she leaves. And we get a little backdrop and we find out what happened with his ex. So his ex, Courtney, he found her in bed with another man. And then she proceeded to tell him that he was nothing but a great body and money, that he had nothing else to offer anyone. So now I get even more so why when Violet puts him down, basically trying to, you're nothing but a whore, why it affects him so much, because the person that hurt him the most told him that's all he was. It makes even more sense. And I get it that he doesn't want to go through that shit anymore. I totally understand it. We switch back to Violet's POV. She's in her car. She's thinking. And she's pulled back up to the resort, the Caliendo Resort. And there's a knock on the window. It's her brother Mark. And Mark is like, we've been worried. We haven't heard from you all day. And she didn't have her phone or anything because the kids rushed her out. But she apologized. She said, "I'm sorry. I should have been more considerate. I should have used Ryder's phone." And he was like, "Okay." So then he helped her um, take the kids up. She told him about Joel and how he canceled. And Mark was just like, "Oh, okay." They took the kids to bed. And then when she came out, she saw Marcus making tea. And so she says, "What's wrong?" Because he says that mom had always said, like, when you're making tea, that's normally because something's wrong. And he says, "I was making it for you because I know something's bothering you. And I was hoping we could talk about it." So a lot of stuff comes out in this conversation. Okay. First of all, Mark is prepared to have someone else step in and handle the Benson wedding because he thought that's what's been having her so preoccupied, right? That this is just too much for her. And she was like, "Oh God, no, no, that's not it." She's like, "It's not like I want to do it." She's like, "But that's not it." In her head, she was thinking, "You know what? I should just tell him about Ryder," but that's not what came out. What came out was that she had been thinking that they should hire a private investigator to find Anya. And so he says, "I think we can maybe hire someone." He's like, "But not forcing her to talk or anything, just to make sure she's okay." So then here is all of the tea drama. This family is wild. Okay. So the father's name is Robert. Robert was married to her mom, who is Eliza. Okay. They apparently had children, but what no one knew was that for 30 years, Eliza was having an affair with Robert's brother, Carl. Now, Robert was very cruel. No one's actually shocked that this is what wound up happening, but it's still fucked up, right? So, they also found a bunch of files, okay? And apparently, the father, Robert, kept a file on everyone. So, basically, any secrets, any type of shit, he kept it. He kept files on people. And they haven't even gone through all of the files. So it's going to be a lot of revelation once they get through all of that. Now, here's another bomb. Carl is the father of both Mark and Izzy. Okay? And that's weird for them because their whole lives they've called him Uncle Carl, but he's actually their dad. So that's messy. Then he was with a woman named Kate. He got her pregnant, and Robert wanted her to get rid of the baby. Thankfully, Kate didn't do that. She just left. And she had a daughter. Her name's Rosemary. And for a long time, Mark didn't know about it. But once he found out, and, realized she left because of what the father had done, that's who he wanted to be with. He loves her to pieces. And that's that. So the father really is, or was, shall we say, because he's dead, he was someone who wanted to control people with information, which is what a lot of, folks will do. I get information on you, I control you, right? And she winds up telling him about Ryder, and he basically told her, "Follow your heart." And she told him about her fear that this was like a trick, that him and Joel had came up with this elaborate plan to try and humiliate her. And Mark goes, "Joel and elaborate don't go in the same sentence." So her brother wants her to do what it is that makes her happy. You can't worry about other people. You know, you got to do what makes you happy. So she gets tired of talking about it. She's like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'll deal with this in the morning. So she's got a meeting with Missy and Joel, and the wedding I think it's in like 2 weeks or something like that, 12 days out. And she was going to wear her hair down because she thought Ryder might come. And her sister Izzy comes in, the youngest sister, and she's like, Why are you wearing your hair down? And she's like, I'm not, I'm putting it up. And she's like, Yeah. So Izzy spills the beans. So Parker and Sophia told her that Violet likes Ryder. So the kids saw the chemistry, right? They saw them looking at each other and said how good of a time they had on the boat and in the water, all this type of stuff. And she's happy to see Violet happy. She's like, but we can't forget, like, he didn't try and sleep with Emma on your wedding day, which was 10 years ago. And then, so she was like, listen, I don't have anything to do with that. It is what it is. And she leaves out our girl Violet and runs right into Ryder. And Ryder and Izzy have a little back and forth. Their exchange is really funny. Um, they keep each other on their toes. And so Izzy leaves, and then Ryder puts it all out there. He's like, listen, I really like you. It has nothing to do with Joel or trying to do something. It has nothing to do with that. He said, 10 years ago, I was in a really dark place. I got my heart broke. And he told her what happened with Courtney and what Courtney had said to him. And he said, at that time in my life, all I did was drink. And if I hit on Emma, honestly, I don't even remember. I don't remember a lot of stuff that happened back then. He's like, you're not what Joel says. And she says, what does he say? So he winds up telling her about the Ice Queen that he calls her. That made her mad. But I'm just kind of like, you're mad at him. He don't fucking call you that. That's what Joel has been calling your ass behind your back all this time. But she freaked out because she was like, oh God, So he tells her, he's like, I want to take you to get pickles, you know? And so she agreed that after this meeting, they're going to go and have pickles. And so she gives, well, the fried pickles, and she gives him a little kiss. So Ryder is waiting in her room, and well, in her office. They exchange numbers so that she can message him when she's done with the meeting. But he winds up wandering his way into the meeting anyway. He decides to go in. It's super cute because, of course, he wants to defend Violet because fucking Joel always has something slick to say to her, and he had made a comment to Missy, saying how, your body's still hot, you haven't had kids yet. Of course, it's a dig at Violet. And our boy Ryder was ready to go at Joel, and she just kind of said to Ryder, "Don't worry about it, I got it." So she starts talking about ice sculptures and how lovely it would be for their wedding if they got like an ice queen and king and all this kind of stuff. And that it's a way to make sure that old Joel understands, she knows that you've been saying this about her and it's not affecting her. And then Ryder gets in on it, and he's all like, oh, this will be great. It's two people making love. It's an ice sculpture. But Joel is like, this is porn. Ryder and Violet are both like, no, it's art. You have to understand art. And so when they were talking, it came out that they had been on the boat, and Joel was just kind of like, what? why were you on the boat? He had a little attitude about it. And Ryder just kind of started talking about the different rooms. So they had decided to get married in the gold room, Joel and Missy. And Ryder was like, I would want to get married in the silver room, which is technically the one that um our girl Violet would like to get married in as well, for like a winter wedding. It's like perfect. So then Missy changes her mind and she goes, I really do like the windows in the silver ballroom. Is that still available? So again, it's already weird that you want to marry this guy in the same place that he got married with the other woman, but now she wants this other place. She wants the silver room. I don't know. It's just all weird. So Joel asks to speak with Violet in private. He tells Missy it'll be a moment. It's about the kids. So Ryder walks Missy to the car, and Joel and Violet go to her office. Immediately, goes, what's going on between you and Ryder? And she says, you don't get to ask me anything about that. He's like, you went on the boat together. She's like, no, I went on the boat because you canceled on your kids. Who you need to apologize to? He proceeds to tell her, I know you're lying. I know you. I knew you didn't want me. It was a thrill at first to try and get you, but then you became boring because you're a cold bitch. And Ryder knows the same thing, and he'll figure it out soon enough if he hasn't figured it out already. So this is when she tells him, Emma's going to be taking over your wedding. I'm done with this shit. I'm not dealing with this anymore, Because what I do with my private time doesn't have anything to do with you. And he's just like, I don't know. It's the I. So when he gets back to the car, with Missy, he has this attitude with her. He's like, we've got to get out of here. So Ryder knows something has happened, something has transpired, and he's like, oh shoot, I want, what's happened. But it's like, you should be asking your friend. I'm your ex-wife, bitch. I don't go with you. That's still your friend. Talk to your friend. Ask your friend, well, what's going on between you and my ex-wife? You can ask. There's nothing wrong with asking. You do have kids with the woman. You can ask. But you coming at her and then trying to make her feel bad about stuff when you with the bitch that you were cheating on her with? Are you serious? Joel is trash. So after Ryder witnessed this, he goes back to her office, and Violet's looking like so dejected, and he's like, what did Joel do? What happened? Because again, he was snapping at Missy. He knew something was up. She tells him, Violet says it's not going to work. He tries to plead with her. She doesn't budge. She asks him, who's Susan and Kelly? He doesn't answer. He's not ready to tell her about his father. And being the way she is right now, he doesn't trust her with that information. And he says, I can't tell you. And she says, exactly like I thought. But he tells her, when you finish dealing with whatever that he's done to you, then you come and find me when you're ready to step out, of the shadows, because she's still hiding. And he tells her, I'm not afraid to admit I like you. For him, it's clear. His mom had always told him, when you meet the person you're supposed to be with, it'll be clear for you. And it's clear for him, and it's not for her. So he just leaves it in her court. We fast forward a few days. Poor girl, she been going through it. Violet sleeps with his fucking cable knit sweater that he had given her on the boat. And her whole bed now smells like him. And she realizes that what he was saying was the truth. She's got to fix this. You can't let anybody inside. You can't feel like if I let them inside, they're going to hurt me. I think you should be prepared for it the best way you can, right? I think it's okay to look at it and say there's a possibility it might not work out with this person. This will be how I would want to handle it. There's a way to kind of deal with it, but that's something you deal with internally. It's not something that you put on the, you know, you throw at the person, right? Because they haven't done anything. You know what I mean? You're convicting them of something they haven't even done yet. So she decides she's gonna have a discussion with her kids. Normally they all have breakfast together, the whole family, but she's gonna have just breakfast with her kids. Really have some their own personal family time because there's a breakdown in communication they have as a family. And so when she talks about Ryder, Parker is happy, right? Sophia isn't really. She likes him, and she understands that he likes her mom, but she says he was only happy to have us there because you were there. You know, she's like, our own dad doesn't even like us. How can we expect someone new to like us? And the Parker boy said the same thing. This broke her heart because it's like, oh my gosh, you know? And Sophia is also upset that she's even planning this damn wedding. Sophia says it's embarrassing. And Violet was like, why didn't you tell me? I would have handed it over to Emma. I would have done it sooner if I'd have known it bothered you. She said, it doesn't matter now. Everyone talks. They're all talking about how he was having an affair with Missy while you all were still married. Is that the truth? And she tells her daughter the honest truth. She said, honestly, I heard those rumors too. I don't know if they're true or not. She's like, you'd have to ask your dad. But it's not going to change anything on my end. She says we weren't in love with each other anymore. And the revelation of whether he was cheating or not, it's not going to change anything. So, what really gets her is the fact that her kids, her daughter in particular, um, was now doing what she was doing, which was don't let anyone in because they might hurt you. She didn't realize those defense mechanisms. Sweetheart, your children are watching you. They see it. I hate that the kid is feeling that way, but I'm glad that she saw it. So now she sees I've got to change what I'm doing because it's affecting the people that I want to keep all harm from, my kids. So again, I hate the kids are going through it, but that's unfortunately what needed to happen to snap the mom out of the bullshit. So then we switched to Ryder's POV. It's been a few days since the little debacle in her office, and he thought she would have said something, but she hasn't. He thought about sending her some clever little things, but decided not to. He's going to spend the day with his dad, but it's a bad day. He's eventually able to settle his dad down watching old movies, but he winds up falling asleep thinking about Violet. And when he wakes up, his dad is gone. He's looking everywhere. He's freaking out. He's called the nurses. I mean, he's losing it. We then switch to Violet's POV. She's on her way over to let him know that she likes him. She wants to be with him. And she sees this old man coming out of the bushes. She barely recognizes him, but eventually she realizes it's Mr. Donald Carlex. This guy was this burly guy. He's now hunched over, feeble, and she's looking like, what the hell? This is nowhere near the Mr. Carlex that she remembers. So she gets out of the car to try and help him. He runs into the bushes. She goes after him. She eventually, poor girl, gets cut all up the back of her legs. And she eventually gets to him. He's calmed down a little bit. His dog, Sabine, is with him. And it's just sad. He winds up knocking her in the face. And so she's going to have a bruise there because he kept saying, I want to go home. I just want to go home. She realizes this is clearly dementia, and she sees what Ryder has been trying to keep from everybody.